We welcome you month we all adore. We pray for happiness and more. To all the people open up your door. Peace, love and joy. Let them soar, let them soar. Ramadan, welcome holy month Ramadan. Ahlan Ramadan. أحلى القوافي والنشيد في مقدم الشهر السعيد. النور في الدنيا يزيد والرب تواب شكور. أحلى القوافي والنشيد في مقدم الشهر السعيد. النور في الدنيا يزيد والرب تواب شكور. والرب تواب شكور. رمضان رمضان welcome holy month Ramadan. Welcome Ramadan.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. Now inshallah, welcome to our first annual Ramadan Dawah WhatsApp group event, and this is now inshallah day 2. This is inshallah day 2. Now in our day 2, you find that we know the topic already. I think so people, they have already gotten the posters everywhere to know that in 26th of May 2017, inshallah, we are going to have this topic. So I've gotten that. You find that our topic is a summarized fiqh of fasting, a summarized fiqh of Siyam. Now inshallah, before I go on, I just want to mention something about this first annual Ramadan Dawah WhatsApp group event. I find that this is a Dawah WhatsApp group event that was done by this same organization. As you know, Dawah group, it is not only members who are involved in the chat group, but we also have a small, you can say, organization of ours, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, in which you find that our work is virtual. Our work is virtual, in which we try to spread the authentic teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And also we are doing our best so that we can also increase the membership of the people in the Dawah group. And that's why you can see we have Dawah group 1 and we have Dawah group 2. And inshallah we're going to increase it. And also we have Facebook, we have also in YouTube. And inshallah we're going to try to put more and more of it bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And inshallah you can see that this is our first annual and it is our first ever done, but now inshallah now we find that at least we had a very good talk by our shaykh, inshallah, on the day 1 in the time when we talked all about the Ramadan is coming, a reminder for us, and we got a little bit tips for us. Now inshallah we find that one may be asking also that why are you mentioning about 26th May 2017? Why don't you say that it is which day of the time? Now the reason is that because you find that in some places there maybe it is first Ramadan, in another person maybe it is the 30th of Shawwal, or another place maybe the 2nd of Ramadan, and another place on maybe 29th of Shawwal. So find that for that thing, we don't want to put very much effort. We just use the English calendars. And also, this is very much important. Now, inshallah, also, I just forgot to mention that the people who are in WhatsApp group, they will have the question answer session, and inshallah, also those people bi'idhnillahi ta'ala who are also maybe in Facebook or in YouTube and have any question, they may ask it bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, but you find that you have to see the rules on it, because we don't usually dwell very much into our fiqh. As you know that I am not a scholar of fiqh, but I try my best. But inshallah, I'm still a student of knowledge. I'm still a student. And I'm working our best so that we can spread the deen of Islam, and we will do the best bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So I just want to mention tonight that tonight's topic is a nice one, and we're going to summarize this fiqh of fasting. Now, many people, they ask that what is fiqh? What is fiqh? So the answer to it is very much simple. This is now, if you go to English term, they usually term it as Islamic jurisprudence. And you find that when we come into a little bit of explaining into it, you find that this is now where you find that the Islamic jurisprudence, it is fiqh, and you find that here we derive or we get the rulings that are related to all matters of worship. Like example, what is the fiqh of salah? And we'll give you another ruling or ahkam on about the salah. And when we talk about the zakah, we also give such like things. And many of people, they usually want such type of lectures. They want this type of deep courses into fiqh. And so that you find that they will be able to know, how to pray, how to pay zakat in the right way, and such like things. And so inshallah, in the understanding of fiqh, you'll find that we are able to derive that ruling. And with that ruling, we can put it into the fact that what is fasting, and what is the things that are related to fasting, and what are the things that nullify that fast, and what are the things that does not nullify that fast. So inshallah, tonight bi'idhnillah ta'ala has mentioned that we are going to have a comprehensive fiqh of fasting. Then I have to first say that we are going to have some important ruling about Islam, and that's why you say that this is a comprehensive one. So we will have very much, you can say, an important ruling about Siyam or fasting, which you find that every Muslim they should be doing. So first of all, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, I will start by, so what is fasting? Siyam or fasting, it is worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal by abstaining from the food, drinking, and sex from dawn to sunset. Inshallah, I have tried to use this definition as it is being used by our Sheikh Ibn Uthaymin, Muhammad al-Uthaymin rahimullahu ta'ala. And this is our Sheikh, and you find that we have been learning from this Sheikh a lot. So he's saying that very important that the way fasting, it should be defined, and it should be defined in a way that is Islamic, is a way that it is you are worshipping Allah first of all. You are worshipping Allah. And how do you worship Allah? How do you worshipping it? You are worshipping Allah by abstaining from things that which He has made halal, like food, it is halal. And to find that I cannot say that all the foods are halal, but you find that most of them that Allah has told us, they are halal. An example is like when you eat rice, and when you eat together, we eat something that is like stew. So they are halal. But find Allah is telling you that you should not eat those foods at the time of Ramadan, at the time of fasting, at the time of dawn to sunset. From that dawn to sunset, you are abstaining from that food. When we talk about drinking, now you find that the water you are not allowed to drink at that time from dawn to sunset. And also from talking about the sexual intercourse, in which you find that you are doing it with the wives, and this is also, you are not allowed to do it from dawn to sunset, but you can do it after read. Now, what is the importance of fasting? We find that fasting in the month of Ramadan, it is one of the pillars of Islam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Bunya al-Islam ala al-khams shahadatan an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah wa akim as-salat wa atu az-zakah wa hajj al-bayti wa Siyam Ramadan. So Islam, that's the Arabic part, that Islam is built on 5 pillars. First one, it is giving testimony that there is no God but Allah Azza wa Jal, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of Allah Azza wa Jal. Number 2 is you offer the prayer dutifully and perfectly. Number 3 is to pay the zakat, which is the obligatory charity. Number 4, it is to perform the Hajj, which is a pilgrimage to Mecca. And also 5, we find that it is to observe the fast during the month of Ramadan. So this is now the importance of fasting. It is that it is in the month of Ramadan that it becomes the pillar of Islam. And that means without this pillar of Islam, you have no right to be called a Muslim, because you are not fasting at the time it should be fasted, especially in Ramadan. Now, we have not yet finished, because we find that there are a little bit more I have to explain it. But when we talk about the people who are observing the fast during the month of Ramadan, there are some who have been exemplified, and inshallah we're gonna talk about them bi'idhnillahi ta'ala later on. But if very much important to know that this thing, that those people who are not allowed fast, we are going to talk about them, don't worry. And we are going to talk about in the ruling on fasting. So ruling on fasting, this is our topics. So at least we have done at least 2 topics already within the 10 minutes. We have mentioned the definition of fasting, and we have mentioned the importance of fasting. So what are now the rulings on fasting? First ruling is that fasting, it is obligatory for all adult, conscious and able Muslim male or female resident in his own area. That means he is not in traveling. I want to talk about that it is obligatory here. It has been put for the fact that he should be a person who is adult, because of the fact that if that person, he has not reached puberty, then we can say that that person, that is a child now. Because he has not reached puberty, then he is not, it is not obligatory for him or her to fast. So he must be adult. And then conscious is also a very important thing here. Being a sane person, being a person who is not insane, being a person who knows what he's doing, that is being conscious. And I talk about able Muslim male or female. Able, ability here is that he is able to fast. And so when we talk about a person who is able to fast, it's very much important to know that a person, he has the ability, he knows he can be able to fast. And ability is very much important because of the fact that some people, they are not able to fast. Maybe they have a disease, or maybe they have a sickness in it. And inshallah, I'm gonna explain it maybe a little bit on it. But based on inshallah, we are going to go ahead. So it is ability, and then Muslim also. You should be a Muslim again. Very much important here. When we talk about a person, this is obligatory for a Muslim, not for a non-Muslim. Okay. And then also very much important here is that he is resident in his own area. That means he's not traveling, because for the people who are traveling, they are being exempted. Number 2. We are going to mention that the unbeliever, they does not fast, and if he gets the guidance of heaven to the true religion of Allah's Jal, and he embraces Islam, then he does not require to make up the past days of fasting. And that's why I find that this is very much important when you talk about the unbelievers. These people who they don't believe even in Islam, and when now they have come into Islam, or they have entered in Islam, or they have reverted into Islam, then it is not must for them to pay, to make up this past days of fasting. This is very much important for them, as we find that some people, they should know it. Number 3 is that also this fasting, it is not obligatory for the small or for the immature children. Now when I have children, you find that I mentioned here that it's not obligatory for him, but he should be ordered now to fast to habituate himself to it. He should be taught how to fast in order it can be helping him or her to fast for their Ramadan bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Number 4 also, we have to mention in the ruling on fasting that the mentally disordered one, he is also not obliged to fast, and he is not obliged to compensate it by feeding, even if he is a mature one. Now we talk about the mentally disordered one. He is not obliged to fast because he is mentally disordered. He is not sane. He is insane. So he's not obliged to fast. And now, and very important thing is also, he is not obliged to compensate it. Maybe people, they usually compensate, talk about the older people, they usually compensate for them by maybe feeding, and that is the way they should be doing it. But here, for the mental disordered, he is not obliged to compensate it by feeding, even if maybe he's a mature person and he is mentally ordered, then he is not required, he is not obliged to compensate it by feeding. The 5th one now is that the people now who maybe they are permanently unable to fast, such as the aged person and those who are suffering serious ailment with no hope of recovery, they are required to feed a poor instead of fast. So that's what I'm mentioning here, that people now who you find that they are permanently unable to fast. The example I've mentioned here that the aged person, you find that now he has reached very much all the age, 60, 70, and it becomes maybe difficult for him or her to fast, then he has to feed the poor instead of fast. And maybe the person now who is sick and he's suffering serious ailment, and there is no hope of any treatment of it, of any recovery, then also he is required to feed the poor instead of a fast. That is the 5th ruling. So number 6, now I want to go a little bit faster because we have a little bit more to talk on about. So 6th point is that the sick person who you find that he is expecting a recovery now. This sick person is a person who is maybe in hospital for just a few days and is expecting recovery maybe after 2 days. So he may break his fast. If fasting is difficult for him, then he has to make up after his recovery. So maybe he has not fasted for those 2 days, then he must make up after his recovery. That is for the sick person who is expecting the recovery. And maybe he did not fast for those 2 days, he was in the hospital or anywhere, then he has to make up after his recovery. The number 7 is the pregnant woman and the breastfeeding mother. They are allowed also to break their fast in Ramadan if that is difficult for them, or if they fear on their children which is in them. Then they have to make up for their missed days later. This is also very much important because many of the women, they don't know this fact about for the pregnant women, that they need to know for the fact that if they have missed or they break their fast, then they need to, and especially it is here in Ramadan, we are talking about Ramadan here, we have to understand. And as we mentioned here that for the people who are fasting for Ramadan, it's very much important for them to know for the fact that these rulings are important. And some of you may be amongst only of the categories here mentioning. So maybe you are a pregnant woman and you find it very much difficult for you, and you break the fast Ramadan, then you need to make up for that missed days later. And also for the breastfeeding mothers who you find that they are feeding their children and they fear that may be difficult for them, then they have to make up that missed days later bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Number 8 is now the menstruous woman. Menstruation here is what we are talking on about, and you find that also the woman in the postnatal bleeding, they are not allowed to fast during their period. They are not allowed to fast during their period, and this is also very much important for the fact that they are also here obliged to make up for that missed days later. They are obliged to make up for the missed days later. So this again is also very much important because of the fact that when you find that their menstruation period, then if it is 14 days, 7 days, then they have to make up for that 7 days. The 14 days, they have to make up for those 14 days bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And number 9, so that was for the menstruous woman and women in the postnatal bleeding. They have to make up their missed days later. Then number 9, we go to the traveler, and you find that the traveler now, he may either fast or he may break it, and he can make up for that missed days later bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Whether the journey is temporary, such as maybe traveling for Umrah, or it is permanent, such as traveling of a taxi or a truck driver, the traveler is allowed to fast or break while he is outside his own locality. So that is very much important because he should be outside his own locality, then at that time he can fast. But if still is inside, then he should not be they're saying that if that person is outside his own locality, then he can fast or not fast. He's allowed to he's allowed to break the fast. But for the person, now you find that he is on that place in the residential area, then he should fast. He must fast. Okay, because you're not traveling. But if you're traveling, then you can break that fast. What are now the matters? So we have talked about that is 9 things we have talked about in the topic of the rulings on fasting. Now, bi'idhnillah, we have mentioned. I think so. We have known now what is fasting. Alhamdulillah, we have understanding. We have mentioned about the importance of fasting, and also we have mentioned the rulings on fasting. And we have mentioned a lot the rulings, the 9 rulings. Now we want to go to the matters that do not spoil the fasting. The matters that do not spoil the fasting. And you find that if a fasting person maybe eats or drinks unintentionally or ignorantly, or you find that he's forced to do so, then his fasting does not spoil. This is the matter that does not spoil fast. You find that there's a fasting person and maybe he ate or he drank unintentionally. Because here is also mention of the fact that he is ignorant. He didn't know that today was the day of fasting, or he had forgotten it. Then he is this thing does not spoil his fast, and immediately if he remembers, then he should stop fasting. He should stop breaking his fast, and he should go on. He should continue fasting, and this will not break his fast. Will not spoil his fast of that day. Maybe he ignorantly he ate, then he is allowed also to is allowed to go on with the fasting because of the fact that he knew, so he was ignorant at that time, or maybe he was forced to do so. He was forced to eat. Then that also does not spoil his fasting. Why? Because Allah says something in the Quran. So in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 286, Rabbana la tu'akidna inna sina aw aqtana. Pray our Lord, condemn us not if we forget or we fall into error. And you find that here is you find that you are asking Allah that condemn us not if we forget or fall into error. That means that you are not put into accountability when you have forgotten, or when you are when you have forgotten, or maybe you have fallen into error without knowing it, ignorantly. Then Allah Jal, He allows you to not to spoil that fasting of yours. He also says, Allah Jal, in the Holy Quran, in Surah An-Nahl, chapter number 16, verse number 106, إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَا وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ, except that who is compelled to do so while his heart is firm in faith. And also Allah Jal says in chapter 33, which is Surah Al-Ahzab, verse number 5. So here it says, وَلَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاهٌ فِيمَا أَكْتَعْتُمْ بِهِ وَلَكِنْ مَا تَعَمَدَّتْ قُلُوبُكُمْ. So there's a problem here. Wait a minute, here it says that there is no blame on you if you make a mistake therein, except in regard to what your hearts deliberately intended. So if someone now maybe he eats or he drinks unintentionally, his fast does not spoil. And if he eats or he drinks thinking that the night it has started by the sunset, or thinking that the dawn it has still not started, then his fast does not spoil. And if water enters in one's throat unintentionally while he rinses out his mouth, then his fasting also does not spoil. And similarly, having a wet dream during the fasting does not spoil fast, as it happens without intention. So this is very much important, especially when we find that people, they don't know these things, the matter that do not spoil fasting. And I've mentioned the verses from the glorious Quran which mentions that if somebody does this unintentionally, then there is no blame on you, because you didn't know what had happened. And also, as we mentioned here in Surah Al-Ahzab, وَلَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاهٌ فِيمَا أَكْتَعْتُمْ بِهِ وَلَكِنْ مَا تَعَمَّدَتْ قُلُوبُكُمْ. When you find that there is an exception there, except in regard to what your heart deliberately intended. So if you intended it, maybe in your heart, you don't know what happened in your heart. Only Allah knows. So that's why you find that here when you talk about taqwa, also, when you talk about taqwa and fasting, it interrelates all together into each other. Because we don't know if you have eaten, it is only Allah Azza wa Jal, He knows. If you have eaten or you have not eaten. And if you have eaten, then Allah Azza wa Jal knows that you have eaten. So that one we say that fasting, it only remains between you and Allah Azza wa Jal. And you and Allah Azza wa Jal, you know best. Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. And I cannot come and say that you ate. No. Because I've not seen you, that doesn't mean that you ate or you didn't eat. So this is a very more important connection between you and Allah Azza wa Jal. And also, we are going to talk about these things or this topic, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, inshallah. So here we find that we have mentioned at least a little bit thing. Let me mention number 1 point here is that if you have eaten or you have drunk unintentionally during your fasting, then that your fasting does not spoil. It does not spoil. So understand that. Maybe you ate something and unintentionally. Now here unintentionally, maybe you are eating or you are drinking, thinking that night it has started by the sunset. So you are eating or drinking and you thought that at night it has started, but the sunset, it was there. Or you had thought that the dawn, it still has not started, and then you are eating, then your fasting does not spoil. So at sunset time, maybe you find that you ate early, then this is unintentionally. Then if this is unintentionally, then your fasting does not spoil. But if you did intentionally, then your fasting spoils. So yeah, it is talking about intentional or unintentional. You didn't do it out of your own will. You just saw you find in the situation like that and you did it. So yeah, the situation, you saw that the sunset had happened and you thought that had happened, you ate. So that was unintentional. But you find that if you do it deliberately, then there's a problem. And also at the time of dawn, and you thought that the dawn, it has not started, then you are eating, then that fasting does not spoil. Okay, so if water also another, that this is now we have mentioned first point that about intentional or non-intentional. Number 2, in the same point of intentional and non-intentional, if maybe you had water that enters into your throat unintentionally while you are rinsing out his mouth, when you're rinsing your mouth, then that fasting also does not spoil. And this is also similar. Now the third point, that when you are having wet dream during the fasting also does not spoil fast, as this is unintentionally. Now we have mentioned very important points here, and it needs to be understood that these points, they are important, that they are matters that do not spoil fast. But what are the things that spoils the fasting? The fasting, it is spoiled by the following 8 things. They are spoiled by the following 8 things. The first one is sexual intercourse. And if a fasting person whose fasting is obligatory, he has done sexual intercourse during the daytime of Ramadan, he has to make up for this day and to offer the atonement and to offer an expiation. And that is, he is required to maybe set free a slave, and if he is unable to do so, then he has to fast 2 months consecutively. And if he is unable to fast 2 months consecutively, then he has to feed 60 poor person. So inshallah, that is the way you do it. That is the atonement for doing sexual intercourse during the daytime of Ramadan. And that's why this is one of the major, we can say, sin that happens during the daytime of Ramadan, because you have to pay that atonement, which is very big, a huge one. Fasting 2 months consecutively is not an easy task, and also you have to feed the 60 people. Maybe it's an easy task for some people, but still it's not an easy task also to get 60 people and to feed them whole food. So it's not an easy thing. This is one of the people have said, as well as the scholars have said, is one of the things that spoils the fasting. Number second thing that spoils the fasting, it is intentional ejaculation of sperm by any means, such as masturbation, kissing, or embracing. And this is now what you are doing. You are doing intentionally ejaculation of that sperm, and that also spoils the fasting. That also spoils the fasting. That is intentional ejaculation of the sperm. Maybe you did it by masturbation, or you did it by kissing or embracing. Still it spoils the fasting. Number 3, eating and drinking, either it is useful or harmful, such as even smoking, it spoils the fast. Maybe you are eating, maybe you are drinking, it still spoils the fast. You are doing it intentionally. Number 4, using injection for nutrition, for it is similar to eating and drinking. Other injection, they do not break the fast. Like there's someone which you find that is just for treatment purposes, then they don't break the fast. But you find that the one injection which is used for nutrition, then it is similar to eating and drinking, as it spoils the fasting. So that is injection for nutrition. It spoils the fast. Number 4. Number 5 now is injection of blood. And maybe if a fasting person, he suffers from hemorrhage, and injected blood to recover his fasting will spoil. His fasting will spoil because there is injection of something into his body, and which is blood. Blood is very much nutritious, because even if you are suffering from hemorrhage and you are injecting that blood to recover, still that fast will be spoiling on that day. So that is injection of blood is number 5. Number 6, menstruation or postnatal bleeding also spoils the fasting. Menstruation or postnatal bleeding. I think I mentioned this one. Number 7, releasing the blood by cupping. Fasting, you find that does not spoil if the blood comes out by itself, such as bleeding through the nasal hemorrhage or bleeding after pulling out the tooth. So maybe you have bleeding when you're pulling out the tooth, then there is no problem with that one. But the fasting will spoil when you have released that blood by the cupping. You are doing the cupping during the daytime of Ramadan, then it will spoil the fast. It will spoil the fast. It will spoil the fast. So that is very bad also. Also, I want to mention the things here, like if you find that maybe there was just an ordinary releasing of blood, then there is no problem. It is allowed. Number 8, we have vomiting deliberately or unintentional vomiting. When you're doing vomiting deliberately or intentionally, then you have spoiled the fast, but unintentional vomiting does not spoil the fast. Unintentional vomiting does not spoil the fast. Now we have some valuable information that I want to mention here, and they may be very much important for you as we are closing on to the day of Ramadan that are coming very fast. Okay, some information. Number 1, they are valuable. A person now may make his intention of fasting while he is in a state of major ritual impurity. Then he can take that bath after dawn. So maybe you had maybe sexual intercourse at the night time of Ramadan. Then you had to make an intention now of fasting while you are in that major ritual impurity, because you become impure. So how can you do it because you are now in that ritual impurity? But say that a person now, you may make that intention of fasting while in that state. He may do suhoor, and then he can make that intention of fasting. Even at that state of impurity, he can still make that intention, and it will be acceptable. Then after that, maybe he can bath after dawn. Okay, so that is very much important for you to know that about this. Is an important information. People, they don't know about it. That's why we usually say that we need to teach this thing to other people. So the valuable information, let us just hear it and inshallah take notes on about it and try to understand it. Number 2 now is for menstruation or postnatal bleeding. Now if that menstruation or postnatal bleeding, it stops during the night, then a woman, he must make her intention for fasting the following day, and she may delay that ghusl, even the full bath, until the morning, but she must perform the ghusl before the morning prayer. She must perform the ghusl before the morning prayer. For fasting, he can fast, she can fast, because at night time it has stopped. Then he must make the intention for the next day, for the following day. He must fast, she must fast that the following day, and then she may delay that ghusl now before doing that morning prayer. Okay, that is very much important also for the part of women. When talking about menstruation and postnatal bleeding, many women, they have question that if I have at night time, then what can I do? And this becomes very much important for them to know that they can do that intention of the fasting as soon as possible, as it will be okay. Number 3, The fasting person, he may pull out his or her tooth, or he may treat his or her injury, or he may apply even eye drops or even the ear drops. Then his fasting, it does not spoil, even if he gets the taste of the drop in his throat. This is a showing of the fiqh of fasting. Very important fiqh of fasting. It is showing here that when you find that this fasting person, he is going to pull the teeth at the daytime of Ramadan, there is going to come out very much bleeding. So will this spoil my fast? The answer is no, because of the fact that there is nothing that is on the fact that it doesn't disturb your fast, doesn't ruin your fast. As the bleeding that comes from the tooth is not very much, it is not the way that it comes from when you are and becomes a very big one. Maybe an accident has happened, and that's another issue. But here you find that fasting person, he has just pulled out that tooth only. Then the fasting is no problem. It's good. It's cool. There is no problem. It does not spoil the fast. Or maybe this person is treating his or her injury. Maybe he has got an injury in their hand and he wants to treat it at the daytime of Ramadan. So what can that person do? We say that this person is allowed. There's no any problem, because of the fact that it does not spoil the fast. It's just treating the injury, so it's allowed. Or maybe the person is applying that eye drops or ear drops, that maybe is treating the eyes and the ears, and he wants to put that eye drops or the ear drops. Even if that taste of the drop is put, he can feel it in the throat, then still the fasting, it does not spoil. The fasting does not spoil. The fasting does not spoil. That's very much important also. Many people, they don't know about this thing, and we need to teach them to make them know. Number 4 thing is that the fasting person, he may clean his or her teeth by using the stick or miswak, or even the brush. And it is sunnah or recommended for him throughout the day, either in morning or in afternoon, to do miswak. So we find that people, they usually talk about the miswak, how to do miswak at the daytime of Ramadan. There's no problem for you to do that miswak at the daytime of Ramadan, because of the fact that it does not ruin any of your stationary things here. You're just washing your mouth. It's just like rinsing through your mouth. Then there's no problem, because there is no any water entering into your mouth, and here you are just cleaning the teeth, so it's allowed. And you find that maybe people may say that some sticks may have fall into the mouth, but there is no problem here, because of the fact that it is still allowed, and it's something that is recommended for you to do it bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. It is sunnah for you to do it bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So that is also very important. Number 5th point is that the fasting person, he may do what eases the difficulty of hot water or of hot weather or thirsty. Maybe he is feeling thirsty, and he may use that water or air conditioning to make cool his body. There's no problem. He may also go and bath. There's no problem, but no drinking of water. Okay. He may also go even to the swimming pool, but you have to make sure that you have closed your ears, and that will be cool, and also your mouth, so that you don't drink the water inside it. So you have to take care of the fact that when you're in the hot weather, you can do bath bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Number 6. So the 6th one now, the fasting person is also allowed to spray something in his mouth to ease or relieve difficulty of maybe breathing, occupying from stress or anything else. Now this is also a medical reason, medical fact again here, that people need to know. that sometimes you have some spray that is used to relieve that difficulty in your mouth. Maybe it's about breathing issue, and you need it so that you can breathe it properly. There's no problem. There's not a problem. There's no problem. You have difficulty breathing, occupying from stress or anything else, then you can do that spraying on the mouth, because of the fact that it is as a treatment. And also when people put treatment on their mouth, on their tooth, then there's no any problem. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. The fasting is still cool. So still sah. Number 7, it is allowed also to rinse the mouth and the nose or wet that dry lips by water. But you find that it is disliked to exaggerate. That is, you use a lot of water and put the water deep into the mouth or nose while you are fasting. So again, you find here we are allowed now to rinse that mouth of yours and the nose or wet that dry lips by water. But you find that we are not allowing you now to exaggerate it. That is, we don't want to use a lot of water, and this is again extravagance. It is not good. And also you may drink some of it, and also to put the water deep into the mouth or nose. That's also in swimming pool. We usually don't allow it. It is disliked. But if you can, you are professional, you can be able. But we will say that let's not do it for the good reason. While you're fasting, let us stop doing swimming pool and something like that. Number 8, it is also, you find the sunnah for the fasting person to break his fast immediately after that sunset without delay. At the time of iftar, he should be doing very much immediate that exact time. Should be very much punctual. So it's very much important. Number 9, it is sunnah also for the fasting person to do much of good acts, ta'at, and avoid all kinds of prohibited acts. This again is what I was mentioning in our last lecture, that we should be avoiding watching a lot of TV in which you find that there's bad stuff there, like movies, and people still watching, soaps. Should stop these things. They are prohibited acts, they are not haram. But to do good acts, now you heard that you can read Quran, as I mentioned, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, you can do all other good things, charity. And as I mentioned, you can go back to the lecture to hear what we mentioned about doing of good acts. We mentioned many. Then number 10, we say that the fasting person, he should observe all type of obligatory tasks. He should keep away from prohibited matters. What I'm meaning here is that when we talk about obligatory tasks, he should perform the 5-time prayer in due time, and he should avoid all type of prohibited or disliked things, such as backbiting, telling of lie, cheating, or even taking of interest. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that whoever does not give up telling lies, giving still the false statement, and all types of bad or evil action, Allah is not needy of his leaving the food and drinking. That is, his fasting is not accepted to Allah. I find that his fasting is not in a way that is he wanted, the Prophet Allah he wanted. So you should give up the telling lies. You should give up telling false statements. You should give up the types of bad or evil actions, so that Allah he will be happy with you fasting, with you leaving your food and drink for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. Inshallah, that is what I wanted to mention. And so that's now what I want to talk about, the fiqh of fasting. But inshallah I want to just mention one or two question and answer session. That what is the correct way maybe to have the iftar meal, which is eating after the break of the fast at sunset in Ramadan, when you find that the stomach is empty. And could you please explain the correct way to ask this? A question here. We are going to answer it. Now find that when you're talking about the correct way to have iftar meal, you find that when you are fasting, the stomach, it contracts and it becomes smaller during that fasting time. Or when you find that one, he eats small amounts of food, so it contracts. Yeah. And hence you find that it is recommended now to break your fast with ripe or dry dates, as the Prophet ﷺ used to do. You can also break it with milk or mixture of yogurt or water with the dry dates. And this is because you find that the body, it absorbs the sugar of the dates quickly and it uses them to generate the energy quickly too. Drinking also that soup, it is also beneficial. And after this you should go to perform that Maghrib prayer. And then you return to complete the iftar meal by eating moderately, not too much. Because filling the stomach with food all at once, it harms the digestive system after the rest it has taken during the fast. Because of fasting time here, it has taken the rest, it has relaxed a little bit. So this question is very much important also, as we are being taught here that this is the correct way of eating the iftar meal. Many of us find that they eat a lot, and it's not recommended because it is giving very much pressure to our stomach and as well as to the digestive system there. And it requires time to relax because we have given it a lot of time to rest. Now if you put more and more and more food, it will be difficult to eat. So that's why you say that we should be eating moderately, especially at the time of Ramadan, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Then also performing or the performance of Taraweeh, you find it become easier when you don't eat too much. Now I just want to give you a little bit, tips of suhoor. Now we have seen about what we call iftar. Now what are the foods and the drinks that one should have in the suhoor meal to avoid that excessive thirst while you are fasting during the day? Now first of all, you have to know that suhoor, it is a blessed meal, and the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded us to have it. As he said, eat suhoor, indeed there is a blessing in suhoor. So when you are eating suhoor, there is blessing in it. And last time I mentioned that what is the blessing he has mentioned here is that when you eat suhoor, you'll also not become very much thirsty. Yeah, when you're eating suhoor, but I'm giving you okay. Now this means that when you're having the suhoor, it alleviates that feeling of hunger and the thirst, and regardless of that quantity or even the type of food. And nevertheless, you find that the Prophet ﷺ, he recommended having dates for suhoor, for suhoor, saying the best suhoor the believer can have is to eat dates. And the Prophet ﷺ said, eat your suhoor, that pre-dawn meal, before the start of a fast. Yeah, before you start fasting, you eat it. Even if it is a mere mouthful of water, for the blessings of Allah they are upon those who eat the suhoor. So when you eat the suhoor, you find that there is blessing from Allah, even if you are drinking just water. Yeah. And delaying that suhoor, it is an act of sunnah, because you're doing it a little bit further. You're delaying that suhoor. It's an act of sunnah. The prophetic tradition of the Prophet ﷺ. He told us to do it, we do it. As the Prophet ﷺ, he used to do this. And nevertheless, there are some tips that should be considered in the suhoor meal. First of the tips, I'll say, it should be low in fats. It should be low in fats. And this is very much important because of the fact that when talking about fatty foods, they are not very good also for health. And when you eat fatty food, instead of concentrating on the main part or the protein part. You are concentrating on the fatty food. It is not correct. It's not the correct way of eating. Again, we should be trying our best to not eat fatty foods, especially during Ramadan. The suhoor time, you should have low fats food. Low fats food. Number 2, one should refrain from sleeping immediately after having suhoor. You should relax. You should not sleep immediately after having suhoor. Okay. And number 3, you should avoid feeling thirsty. To avoid that feeling of thirsty, you should avoid the very salty foods, spices, and the peppers. You should avoid the salty food, spices, and peppers. It is like that. If you want to avoid that feeling of thirsty, so I'm giving you the tips even here, alhamdulillah. And also, it is better not to eat preservatives or fast food. It is better not to eat these preservatives or fast food like burger, sandwiches, and like that. You should avoid it. Also, drink sufficient but not excessive amount of water. Drink sufficient amount of water. Don't drink very much of water. That would be good. And generally, having the fresh foods like the fruits and vegetables, as well as drinking juice, milk, and salads, together with the previous tips, they would help making that suhoor beneficial and the fast blessed by the permission of Allah, the Almighty Allah Azza. And as you're saying that we recommend that you have that suhoor as late as possible, and drink plenty of water and eat dates besides the salad, milk, fresh foods, fruits, vegetables. You should also avoid fats, salt, spices, peppers, and preservatives. The main thing is that you should have suhoor late as possible. You should drink plenty of water, and you should eat dates together with salad, the milk, fresh foods, fruits, vegetables also you should eat. And you should avoid the fatty food. You should avoid salt. You should avoid spices. You should avoid peppers and preservatives. That's a good for you, but it's not haram for you to eat those, but it is halal. But it's for your own health. It's very much good to take care of your own health, especially at suhoor and at the iftar time. So this is also important for you to know. Inshallah, last but not least, let me just mention who are the people, what are the license to break your fast. What are the things, what are the situation in which you find that you are given licensed not to fast. You find that illness, things are, you have to say that giving now the license to break that fast in illness, and Allah says, and whosoever of you is sick or is on a journey, let him fast the same number of other days. This is Surah Baqarah 185, verse 185. So what illness qualifies for the license to break the fast? So there are 3 illness scenarios. One, he expects that the fasting will most probably cause one's death. One expects that fasting, it will most probably cause one's death. Number 2, one expects that the fasting will lead to grave physical harm, like example, loss of hearing or eyesight. Number 3, one expects that the fasting will suddenly complicate illness and delay the recovery, or that the fasting is unbearable in illness. So in the first 2 scenarios, say that one must not fast. That is when you find that one, you expect that fasting, it will most probably cause one's death. And number 2, when one expects that fasting will lead to grave physical harm. Then for these 2, you find that one must not fast. Now for the preservation of life and important body functions, it is necessary. And as for the 3rd scenario, you find that where one expects that the fasting, it will certainly complicate illness and delay recovery, or that the fasting, it is unbearable in illness. As for that 3rd scenario, one is allowed to break the fast. And in fact, fasting, it is not recommended for that person, and one has to guard against whatever may eventually threaten one's life, such as advanced stage of diabetes, or severe stomach ulcers causing bleeding, or acute kidney inflammation, or bronchitis, or heart diseases and sclerosis. Now one may ask that does one have to make the intention by night to take the license not to fast the following day? So here the answer is no, that is not necessary according to Al-Jamhur, but Imam Shafi considered it necessary only if illness is not continuous. And what are the second thing that is the license to break the fast? It is traveling. And talking about traveling, I just want to mention a little bit that traveling is about when it is the place of destination. The place of destination. And the license not to fast when you are traveling, it is included in the glorious Quran, in the ayah. And as we mentioned, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse number 185. And whosoever of you is sick or on a journey, let him fast the same number of other days. So what travel it qualifies for breaking fast here is that there are 4 conditions for license to break the fast when traveling. The first one is that distance or the place where you're going, it should be considered as the as like a traveling distance. Like a person, he will move from one place to another, and he said that this person is traveling. He's traveling far. That's showing that destination is traveling. Number 2 is that the traveler, he must not make the intention to reside in one place for 4 days and nights. And I want to explain also this one more, but afterwards. Number 3 is that the journey has to be for a permissible purpose, that is, it is not for sin. And the license, it is meant to ease the one suffering and not to help a sin. So that journey you are doing, it should be for a permissible purpose. Okay. Number 4 is that one must set off and leave the residential areas of one's town or village before the break of dawn. Even if dawn breaks when traveling, one is licensed to break the fast. Now one may ask that when does their license expire? That is what I wanted to explain more in number 2. That the traveler, he must not make the intention to reside in one place for 4 days and nights. So here, when does that license expire? It expires in 2 cases. First is if one intends to have permanent residence in that place of destination, or if his stay it reaches 4 days and nights and beyond. And number 2, as soon as one returns in its home place, be it night or day, then that license expires. So when you reach at home, be it night or day, then your license the license to not to fast, it expires. Or if number 1, we have mentioned here that if one intends to have permanent residence in that place of destination, or if he is going to stay more than even 4 days and nights. For another person who is given a license to break the fast is pregnancy. Number 4 is breastfeeding. Number 5 is when you're old age. Number 6 is where you are in extreme fatigue due to thirst or hunger. And number 7 is when you find that I'm talking about this point of what are the things that are needed for you to do, or when people may be asking very much questions here on about the fact of fasting, fiqh of fasting, and there's a lot to discuss on about the fiqh of fasting. And also another person who is licensed to break fast is coercion. Coercion is a person who you find that is forced to break his fast. So alhamdulillah, we have mentioned a lot about the fiqh. And I was mentioning here that when talk about the fiqh of fasting, there's a lot to talk about. But I try to make a very comprehensive one. And inshallah, if you have any question, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, you can put it in our below page, in our YouTube. If you are in YouTube, then you can put in the comment, and inshallah, we are going to answer you bi'idhnillahi ta'ala in that comment. And if you are in Facebook, then bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, inshallah, we're going to answer you in that Facebook page of yours. And if you find that yourself that you are in WhatsApp, then also bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we're going to answer you in WhatsApp. And that is now the best way we can answer you immediately. Even if you're in WhatsApp, we're going to answer you immediately. So I just want to finish here bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, but before finishing, I want to make the announcement of our day 3, because we find that this is our first time, and you may find that we may not be the best, but we are trying our best bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, inshallah, to make it easy for all of us bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Day 3 bi'idhnillahi ta'ala is going to happen inshallah on Sunday, which is on 28th of May 2017. The topic that we're going to talk about is mistakes that is made by those who fast. Mistakes made by those who fast. So there are some mistakes that are done by those people who are fasting. And inshallah, if you know these mistakes, then we should be avoiding these mistakes. Inshallah, you know that is within Ramadan, and inshallah you can just hear it, and you can try to implement it and do it the best you can. And all of the things that I've mentioned here, inshallah, we have tried our best to do it in the best way. Trying to do the research in our own way for the sake of Allah Azza. And if you sense something that is correct, it is from Allah Azza. And if we said something bad, or we misquoted some information here and there, then it is from me and from the shaitan. So subhanaka lahumma bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk wa assalamu aleikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thanks to you, every breath I take, every bird I hear, every smile I see, it's thanks to you. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. All thanks is to Allah.